Hello! Welcome to my very first YouTube video. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Heather, and quick little background about me. So in the summer of 2023, I was a photojournalist working for an ABC News affiliate in San Diego. I was extremely burnt out. I didn't believe that much in a higher power, and I felt extremely unfulfilled in my life. Fast forward to now, I am a spiritual coach. I communicate with my angels daily, and I post telling other people how to do the same. I have over 60,000 followers on Instagram, and I got rid of all my stuff and flew to a foreign country, so now I live abroad nomadically, and I am currently filming this video from my hostel in Cusco, Peru. I gotta say, guys, whenever I say that out loud, I kind of get paralyzed a little bit and have to pinch myself at how fast my life changed. And the reason my life changed so fast is truly because of communicating with my angels and learning how to listen to this divine guidance. And I gotta tell you, I did not believe in angels before like August of 2023. So today I'm gonna walk you through exactly what happened for me to do a complete 180 on my spiritual beliefs. So let's get into it. In about July of 2023, I was starting to get slightly spiritual. I would say it was very surface level spiritual, not in the sense of how I feel now. I feel very deeply spiritual now. It was that, being into like tarot and checking my co-star and going with my friend to buy crystals and starting to watch some of those content creators who talk about manifestation. And so I would talk about the universe maybe bringing me things, but that was about it for my belief in a higher power. But around the same time, I was going through a lot of tower moments in my life. A lot of things were being taken away from me, and I wasn't surrounded by that many people. And it became an opportunity for me to find myself again. And I decided that I really wanted to learn how to stop being codependent, to do things on my own, to become a better, more confident version of myself. And so since I wanted to do that, I made a decision with myself that I was going to start just doing new things. Like when new opportunities came my way, I was going to say yes and I was going to do them, because I figured that would be the fastest way to get myself out of my comfort zone and to grow as a person and to overcome my anxiety. How does that relate to believing in angels? Well, one day I was scrolling on TikTok and this video came up by this girl. Her name was Kenzie Swain. Kenzie, I literally owe you my life. She was talking about guardian angels, and she said that every single person has a team of guardian angels that are up there and they want to help you get through life, but they will only help you if you call on them. And in the video, she talked about how to do it, how you look up and you say, guardian angels, if you're up there, I'm asking for help, please send me a sign that you're there. And when I watched this video, I was like, guardian angels? Okay, whatever. But I was also trying new things. So I was like, this counts as a new thing, and I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna see what the fuck happens, because literally the worst thing that happens is I wasted a few seconds staring up at the ceiling. Like maybe I worry about looking stupid, but no one's gonna know. I was alone in my apartment, so like fuck it. And I like looked up at the ceiling and I spoke out loud and I was like, okay, guardian angels, if you're there, like I'm calling on you, please send me a sign. At the same time, another new thing that I tried, I had gone to Pride. This is maybe about a week before I looked up at the ceiling. I had gone to Pride and I saw a tent for a psychic. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm a total freaking skeptic. Like I can't believe I'm sitting here making a video talking about angels, because I was like the biggest skeptic on earth. And so I saw the psychic tent and I wanted to go, not because I believed in it, but because, again, it was another new thing that I could try. And I really wanted to I like to analyze things. I really wanted to figure out how it worked. And what she told me in exchange for what I tell her, to see if I could figure out where the trick and the mind game was. So it's fuck, I'm gonna go to the psychic. Well, I tell her almost nothing and she tells me a lot. I take a lot of notes on it. Some things could or could not be true because they're in the future. Some things did resonate with me more than I expected. And one of the things she said to me was that I had someone that I had lost in the past who was trying to get in touch with me and couldn't, and I needed to connect more with my spiritual side and meditate more in order for them to communicate with me. She also said that she saw the number 8 around me, as well as the infinity symbol, which is the symbol of abundance. I walked away from that interaction yeah, okay, whatever. If a psychic tells you, oh yeah, there's a past loved one on the other side trying to connect with you, I feel like that's the most cop-out thing you could frickin' say to someone. So I didn't take it too much to heart, Also, I don't think I mentioned that my mom passed away when I was 18, a little over 5 years ago. That's probably an important detail for this story. But I did keep this in the back of my mind. And so one day I had just switched apartments and I was driving down the road. All of a sudden I see a sign for this garage sale and it just has an arrow. It doesn't have an address or anything. And something told me we're gonna go here. So we decided to take a turn, follow the arrows. We end up pulling up to this little house and I'm walking around the house. I love books. I always go to the bookshelf. I see this book that calls out to me and it's called Signs. And I pull this book out. It's called Signs, the Secret Language of the Universe. And I flip the book open to the back cover. And it says, this psychic teaching you about how to connect with your loved ones from the other side and how they communicate with you. I was like, is that not just what the psychic told me? Not only that, but the author of that book, her name was Laura, which is my mom's name. I was posting on Instagram at that time and I made a story and I said, I can't believe this is anything else but my mom's energy. But even as I said that, I still didn't fully believe. It was just kind of a miraculous one-off event to me. So at the time I was looking for a sign for my guardian angels. I wasn't really thinking about that experience with my mom. I don't really know why they were separate in my mind for me. Anyways, I asked for a sign from these guardian angels and I don't think that anything's gonna happen. I honestly kind of forget about it, to be honest. So I get home from work one day though. And since I had just moved, I was going on Facebook a lot. I was looking for a dresser at the time, as well as going to garage sales, see if they had kitchen stuff, all of that. And when I got home from work, I opened Facebook and immediately an event popped up on Facebook for a garage sale. Now, I thought this was odd because in the past, I've always scrolled through Facebook Marketplace and there'll be a post about a garage sale. Never before had my phone just popped up an event. And I look at the event and it says the garage sale is starting at 2 p.m. that day. And then I look at the time and it's 2 p.m. I was really tired. I almost didn't go, but it was only a 10-minute walk down the street from where I was. So I was like, you know what? It popped up. I'm just gonna go. I could probably use a walk anyway. I start walking down the street towards this garage sale. As I'm walking down the street, I pass a different house, not the place I was going. And they have a garage and it's open and they have a few racks. They're selling clothes for $1 a piece, this woman is. And so I'm like, okay, well now I'm out. I might as well also stop, look at these clothes too, because they're really freaking cheap. So I start looking around at all the clothes and then this woman starts talking to me. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, when she first started talking to me, I was like, can you not? Because so my job, like I said, I was a photojournalist at a news station. This was a Saturday. My work week started at 2:30 a.m. on Saturdays. So I had just worked from like 2:30 a.m. to like 11, it was like either 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. or something. But so I was exhausted. That's why I almost didn't walk to this garage sale, because I was exhausted. So when this woman started talking to me, I was like, I don't want to speak to anyone. I just want to see if there are cute clothes on this rack. But I also wasn't going to be rude. So I start talking to her, and she's really nice, so I keep up the conversation. I'm like, okay, this is nice, whatever. But she randomly starts launching into this story about how a few years ago, she was on the game show, The Price is Right. And in that game show, there's like a big audience, and they call people from the audience to be able to play the games, and not everyone gets picked. So she was telling me the story of how she went to a taping of this show, and she actually got picked to play a game. And on that show, you have the opportunity to win like these big prizes or like cars or a ton of money. And she was telling me about how she got picked, but then she messed up in the game, so she only won about $9. As she was telling me this story, it triggered a memory for me that I did not even remember having, which is, so there's two game shows. There's The Price is Right, and there's Let's Make a Deal, which it's slightly different, but same premise, where you can like win prizes or a lot of money. And when I was in elementary school, like 3rd to 5th grade, I was obsessed with these shows. Like I can remember watching both of those shows back to back, like in our little like cube TVs set up in our kitchen. And not only that, but like, especially with Let's Make a Deal, and when they like pick the curtains and everything, I would watch other people play, and I'd be like, I would do so good if I was on that show. Like I really, really want to be on that show. And like, those are my thoughts as a little elementary schooler. And so this woman tells me the story about being on The Price is Right. And so my response was something along the lines of, oh, like that is so funny that you mentioned that to me, because I totally forgot about this memory until you were telling me this story. But I used to love watching The Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal growing up, and when I was in elementary school, and I used to always dream of going on the show. And this woman says to me, well, I just got a casting call email from Let's Make a Deal like 2 days ago. Do you want me to forward that email to you? I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, can you please do that? So I give this woman my email, and she forwards me this casting call email. And so I walk out of her garage, and I take a few steps, and I'm just like, what the fuck just happened there? And I was still on that exact street, like hadn't really moved yet. And I look up, and there's a tree on the sidewalk, and on the tree is a sign. And at the top of the sign is an infinity symbol. So I immediately, when I saw that, I thought back to the psychic telling me about the number 8 and the infinity symbol. So the sign, it's an infinity symbol. It has like flowers on one side and like curly cues on the other. And it says, be here now. So I just like had this bizarre experience where I was like, oh, this is a childhood dream that I've had. And this woman like presented the opportunity for it to be realized to me on a silver platter. And then I walk out, and there's this like cryptic sign saying be here now, and it's on that same street that just happened. So I was like, that's a little freaking bizarre. So I walked back, obviously, and I immediately filled out that application. A quick recap of that. We're talking about like believing in angels, but just to finish out that story, they got back a few days later and were like, can we interview you? I interviewed, and they got back and said I was casted for like 5 days later. So in the middle of August, I went to LA and I filmed an episode of Let's Make a Deal. And not only that, but I was picked from the audience to play. So that happened. I'm a little annoyed though, because my episode was supposed to have already aired, but I'm checking and I'm pretty sure that it hasn't. So the schedule that they have is incorrect. So I honestly don't know when it's going to be up at the moment, but I'll keep you guys posted for that. Anyways, so I submitted the application, and then that day I was just kind of reflecting on what happened, and I had remembered that I had asked for a sign from my guardian angels. And like, there was literally a sign, right? The sign that said, "Be here now." So I was like, was that them? And I was obviously still skeptical. Like, even though it was such a bizarre, magical event, it was also a one-off event. I was still skeptical about it. But other bizarre things started happening. Things just started aligning in my life in a way that they never have before. So the next example of this is I, again, was on Facebook Marketplace looking for furniture. And one of the things I was looking for was also a bookcase. So to give you some backstory, I grew up in the same house in New York for 18 years of my life. And I had this little metal bookcase. And it's like a very unique bookcase. I'll try to put a picture here. But it's like tall and slender, and it's like a wireframe bookcase. I've never seen one like it. It has these cool curly cues on the side. Then when I went to college, I brought the bookcase with me. And I went to college in Connecticut, but after I graduated college, I moved out to San Diego, California, and I had to get rid of almost all of my stuff. So I ended up selling that bookcase. I was sad about it, but I was like, this doesn't make sense. It needs to be sold. So I'm sitting on Facebook Marketplace looking for a new bookcase. And this woman has a listing posted for the exact bookcase, like my childhood bookcase, for literally $10. And I just lost my mind because it is such like, it's not like an IKEA freaking bookcase. Like, I didn't even know that there was another one, let alone one being sold at the time, let alone in the city that I'm in. I was just bizarre. So I reach out to this woman and I'm like, this is gonna sound crazy, but that was like literally my childhood bookcase. Can I buy this from you? And she says that she has someone already interested. I'm like, oh, dang it. And she said, because I think it was a Saturday when I reached out. And so she said that person is supposed to come in the middle of the day to afternoon on Sunday. So if you can come tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, then the bookcase is yours. And I was like, oh, dang it. Because if you remember, I had this crazy freaking photojournalist schedule. So on Sundays, I work from 3:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. and I had a photographer shift. So basically, I would go in at 3:30 a.m. with my photographer and we would get our assignment for the day. And it would be somewhere in San Diego. And then we would like drive to that place, set up to film for like the 5:30, 6:30 a.m. live shots. And then after that, we would usually have a break from about 7 to 8 before sometimes having to go to a different place for our next live shot on the 8 a.m. So she was like, oh, if you come Sunday morning. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to be at work. But, you know, my work it is out in the field in the city of San Diego. So I was like, I mean, theoretically, but I have to be in the area. Not only that, but our jurisdiction for the news is not just the city of San Diego, it was San Diego County. So sometimes I would be assigned somewhere where I literally have to drive me and my reporter like an hour away. So it's literally there, like, and just the infinite amount of possibilities for news to happen in that large of a jurisdiction. It's like the odds to me were so low that I would end up being close enough that I could pick up this bookcase without it like hindering work. But I was like, okay, it was in La Mesa, California. It's a city like 20 minutes east of San Diego is where this bookcase is located. So I messaged the person. I said, look, I'm going to be at work. I don't know where I'm going to be assigned yet. So I'll let you know if I happen to be in the area. And I go to bed thinking, okay, and I put a reminder on my phone, like, if I happen to be assigned somewhere near La Mesa, then I will go get this bookcase. So I go into work the next morning and I go up to my reporter Perla. I'm like, oh, like, where are we going today? And she's like, oh, we're going to this like clothing donation center in La Mesa. And I couldn't even remember, like, I don't remember the last time I was sent to cover a story in La Mesa. Like, I don't think, like, we didn't have many. I was just like, you're fucking joking. Because I went to bed that night. Like, I will get this bookcase if I went to bed, if I, like, go to La Mesa. She was like, we're going to La Mesa. I was like, not only that, but, like, we go to do our live shots at this clothing donation center on the 5 and the 6 a.m. So this is before I get the bookcase. And wow, that woman. Oh my gosh. I cannot remember her name or the name of the foundation, but it's definitely in my phone. So I'm going to put it here because sweetest woman I've ever met and so giving, and talking to her about her mission for what she was doing and giving back to people. It was so inspiring. And I truly believe I think that my interaction with her was divinely guided as well, because it made me realize how much in this photojournalist job I had just gotten stuck into doing the job and doing what was expected of me, and so disconnected from everything that I believe in and want to do in life, which is to inspire others and find ways to give back. And like, in talking to this woman, it just started to spark all of that in me again. And wow, like what a gift that interaction in itself was. And then after that, I was able to go get my childhood bookcase. So that was another story that just seemed a little too aligned. But again, I was a skeptic. It wasn't gonna be that easy. So it was just like over time that my brain was cataloging these things like, oh, that was weird. That was weird. That was weird. But I didn't fully convert. Still didn't fully convert until I was talking to my friend. I had this one friend who we were talking about signs and synchronicities, which that was a big thing for me at that moment. I had never talked to anyone about them before, but I was like, some weird stuff has been happening to me lately, and I don't really know what to make of it. And so we're talking through it. And I even told her this one story of another synchronicity that happened right when I moved into my apartment, which, similar to finding that book of my mom's name, I had cataloged it in my head at the time of like a sweet sentiment reminding me of my mom, and not necessarily proof that she was there. But I told her this story and she reflected it back to me that maybe that's what it was. So I will tell you this story briefly because it's one of the most powerful synchronicities I've ever gotten, and one of the first, but I didn't realize until talking to this friend about it, which is in June, my living situation started to not be well. Not only not be well, it was very, very bad. It wasn't the first bad living situation I had, and I think the trauma of these different living situations had compounded to where this one just had me completely immobile, like not able to eat. I don't even want to go into it, to be honest. But so I was like, okay, I think I need to move out. I need to find an apartment. And I really, really wanted to move to Ocean Beach, San Diego. I felt really called to go there. It is the spiritual part of San Diego, and I wasn't fully spiritual at the time, but it just had a more hippie art vibe, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So that was where I wanted to live. And for fun, I had started looking for apartments in the past months prior, but when the living situation got bad, it was like, okay, I'm actually looking because I need to move out now. And it is not easy to find an apartment in Ocean Beach. It is also very expensive. So I was trying to look for a place there that also wasn't breaking my budget, and I was not having luck. And so I was like, okay, since my living situation isn't great, maybe I need to put this dream of living at Ocean Beach on the back burner and just find a place that I can move into for the next month or two, and I can still look in Ocean Beach while I'm doing that, and then maybe move again. But right now I just know I need to leave. So that's what I was doing. I was expanding my search, but I had been on Zillow and I had the like things up for it to let me know. Also, when I was initially looking on Zillow, I had found this one apartment that I was really, really drawn to because it had these like rustic, antique-y cottage vibes, which reminded me of my own house because the house I grew up in when I was little was like really old. And so like the way it was built and the wallpaper and the like things at the bottom of the stairs, it all just communicated like depth and history to it, which I love. I fucking hate the cookie cutter developments of today where just all of that, like, because architecture is an art form as well. And it's been so lost at the cost of like efficiency, which is such a shame to me. And so I didn't like the idea of just living in a box, and I saw this one apartment, I loved it. And I saved it, and then it disappeared the next day. I was like, oh, that sucks. So this one day, I'm sitting at work, and I'm feeling particularly overwhelmed and hopeless about this whole situation and figuring out where I'm gonna live. And then I check my email, and I get a notification that there's a new Zillow listing in Ocean Beach, and I check, and it's that same apartment that I was drawn to earlier. They relisted. I was like, so I instantly messaged the dude later that day, because it was a Wednesday actually, and in Ocean Beach they have a farmer's market on Wednesday. So I was on my way to drive into Ocean Beach to go to meet my friend to go to this farmer's market. And I get a call from the guy like, hey, I saw your application, like, when do you want to like go tour the building? Like, I'm free like later today or tomorrow and I was like, well, actually, I'm driving into Ocean Beach right now and my friend's stuck in traffic. Like, can I come right now? He's like, yeah, sure. I find out later that he was actually supposed to tour with someone else, and I like edged my way in there. But anyways, so now all of a sudden, later that day, I'm staying in the apartment. He's telling me about the apartment. And it's great. And he was old fashioned. He was like, you can't fill out the application online. You have to bring it back to me in person. I was like, okay. So I leave. I'm like, that's a really nice apartment. I think I'm going to apply. So the next day I get my application together and I drive back up to go hand him my envelope. He's finishing touring some other guy, so I have to wait to the side for a few minutes. And then I walk up with my envelope and I go to hand it to him and he literally tells me that, and just as a backstory too, like I had lived at college and an apartment through college, and then I'd lived with family. So I had quite literally never looked for an apartment before, never handed in an apartment application before. This is my first time doing it, right? And I know that shit's not supposed to be easy, but I walk up to this dude with my envelope and I'm like, here's the application. And he literally tells me, like, you know, I really like your vibe. I think you'd be a great candidate as long as I run this and it tells me that you aren't a murderer. I'm thinking that this apartment is yours. And not only that, but since you're moving in by yourself and not with another person, I'm going to knock $50 off of the rent. What? So I walk away from that interaction being like, okay, that apartment is mine. And what? And how did that happen? I don't know. This is a long story, but you just need to know like how like easy it was when it shouldn't have been easy. So here's how we get back to the synchronicity. I think a week later, I'm going to get my keys. And so I go back up, I go back into the apartment, which I had already toured, right? So it was exactly how it was. I had seen it the first time, like completely empty, except there are a few shelves behind the door. And so there was actually something sitting on one of the shelves. I hadn't noticed it the first time when I had toured, but I noticed it this time. This one thing, like completely empty apartment, and this one thing, and I'm realizing now, I apologize, that I have to backtrack for you to realize how significant this is, which is, you know, so my mom passed away, but growing up, she would always give me and my sisters music boxes for like birthdays and holidays. And we would collect them. So I had like a whole shelf of music boxes. Over time, it turned into multiple shelves. And she would do this thing where every single night she would come up to say good night to me. And she would do it one by one as well when my sisters, before they had gone to college, where like It'd be my sister's turn and then my other sister's turn, then my turn. But she would come to me and she would ask me which of my music boxes I wanted to hear, and she would play the music box and she would like sit and talk with me until the song was over, and then she would hug me goodnight and then go to bed. So like music boxes have like such heavy significance for me and my sisters. And so I walk into this apartment and I look behind the door and the apartment's completely empty except for a music box sitting there. Oh my God. I'm just realizing something, guys, because shut up. Okay, that music box, it's like a little trolley and it says San Francisco on it. Well, I'm in Peru right now, and I just went to the Amazon for like 10 days to do ayahuasca, and that experience was very divinely guided because everything on my spiritual journey is. And the name of that small community that we went to was San Francisco. Wow, okay. Anyways, it was a music box, right? But just to give you a timeline, me discovering that music box, it was like beginning of July. So this was before I had seen the psychic. It was before I had found that book. It was before I had asked for signs from my angels, before the let's make a deal thing, the bookcase thing, before any of it. So it happened and I felt deeply connected to my mom, and then I forgot about it. I'm hanging out with my friend and I'm telling her these weird stories about the bookcase, all this stuff. And then I remember the music box and I tell her that story, which like is a really powerful story. And she was like, well, Heather, if all of these magical things are happening to you and you think that there might be angels up there helping you, then like what if one of the angels is your mom? Like that music box and even the bookcase, because that had connections to like my childhood home, that seems like it's your mom. And even the book story too. And I was like, you're so right. And I don't know how I never connected those dots, like, because I had just been getting these fun memories of my mom and then trying to communicate with my guardian angels on the other side, and never had married the two. So that night I was in my bathroom and I thought about it and I looked up at the ceiling again and I said, okay, angels, I'm starting to believe in you now. And some of your synchronicities you've been sending me have been, and because I mean, I'm not going to lie, guys, there were probably a couple other synchronistic stories as well. But it's difficult to remember all of them. And this is also a long video, but yeah, anyways. Like I'd been getting a lot of signs, and then some of the signs are making me think that my mom might be up there. So if my mom is up there with you guys, please send me a sign. And I got the sign the very next day. For you guys to understand how significant that sign was, I need to backtrack to the night that my mom died. And for perspective, like I don't go back to that night often, and I was doing a lot of healing at the time. So I'd actually, the timeline of me asking for the sign, I had written about the night that my mom died, maybe like 3 days earlier. Never written about it before, don't think about it that much, but I had written about it. And basically, my mom was in the hospital at the time and had to go in for emergency surgery, and ended up, not going well. And so we had to like put on scrubs and visit her in the operating room to be able to say goodbye. And while we're saying goodbye, my dad starts singing the song, You Are My Sunshine. And so I was writing about that night and writing about him singing. And I finished that journal entry by saying, An ironic song choice. Mom was the sunshine. The sunshine is gone now. So I journaled about that. And then I had asked the angels to show me if my mom was up there. Fast forward to the next day. I wanted to buy a pair of rollerblades, and I was on Facebook Marketplace. In the beginning of my journey, all the stories started on Facebook Marketplace. But my mom's favorite color was purple. So I was looking for rollerblades, and all of a sudden I found a pair of purple rollerblades, and I thought that was cool. And it made me think of her, so I decided I was gonna buy them. And I had this whole plan that I literally think it was La Mesa. It was La Mesa. That's so funny. This woman also, she lived in La Mesa too. And I had this whole plan because I was also supposed to hang out with my friend Morgan that day. This same friend who was saying, maybe this is a sign from your mom. So the timeline was I was going to get out of work at 12 p.m. I was going to drive the 20 minutes to La Mesa, get the rollerblades, drive the 20 minutes back to my apartment. And then I have to find street parking, which is always difficult on a Saturday. And then I was going to meet Morgan at 1 p.m. So I have this whole plan in my mind, and I'm the type of person who really liked to exert control over things because my trauma had made me so anxious anytime I didn't have control. And so I'd always plan things out to the letter, and anytime they wouldn't go my way, I would freak out and self-sabotage and be like, no, forget it, forget everything. So I have this whole preconceived plan in my head of this whole thing that's going to happen. And I walk out of work at 12 p.m. This woman messaged me and she said, I'm so sorry, I'm at an appointment that's going late. Can we meet 15 minutes later? Which guys, 15 minutes later, that's nothing. But my trauma brain was forget it. Forget the whole thing. No, I can't do that. That's going to make me late. I'm going to run late. And no, forget it. We'll do it another day. Or you know what? Maybe I don't even need the rollerblades. I don't need, and and then I became aware of it and I stopped myself and I was like, Heather, it's 15 minutes. Also, Morgan, and she's not always the most punctual. And, sometimes friends have a different idea of are we meeting at the dot of 1 or it's around 1? And I knew she was the second one. So it was Heather, it's literally not that deep. You can breathe and then go get these rollerblades. So I did something that I never do. I went against my programming and I sat in my car and I paid my gas and electric bill that I had been putting off for a week and stressing myself out about, and it took me 2 seconds to do. And then I went on my merry way to La Mesa to go get these rollerblades. And with all of the synchronicities happening, was starting to believe more in the angels. So even though I still felt a little crazy on the drive over, I decided to talk to them again. And I said something along the exact lines of this. Hey angels, are you proud of me? Did you see what I did just there? Because in the past, I would always try to control everything and rush everywhere. And I didn't do that this time. And I was patient and I didn't self-sabotage. And now I'm flowing and I'm on my way to go get my merry rollerblades. Are you proud of me? So I said that. And it's also important to mention at this time, that patience and divine timing was becoming ever present in my mind. At the very beginning of my spiritual journey, I remembered this book I had read in college called Momo. And that whole book is a metaphor for how capitalism is destroying our perception of time and causing us to rush everywhere. And I noticed that the more I slowed down, the more I noticed things. And I knew patience was one of the biggest things I needed to work on. So when I sat there and I said, hey, angels, are you proud of me? I was thinking about that book and about how I was forcing myself to slow down in a way that I almost never do. They continue to test me on it because I'm driving on the highway. I glance at my phone. I see the exit sign. Immediately after that, my phone goes dark because it overheated. In the past, I'd freak the fuck out and be like, oh, no. I said, angels, I am so thankful that I saw the exit sign before my phone went dark. Thank you for that. And I pulled off at the exit, pulled into a gas station, and patiently sat and waited until my phone turned back on. And it eventually did. And so then I went on my merry way again. I got the rollerblades from this woman, and then I'm driving back to go get on the highway to go back to Ocean Beach. As I'm approaching the highway ramp, the left turn lane signal turns yellow. And I'm the type of person, as I'm sure many of you guys are, that in the past, if I was approaching a left turn lane and the light turned yellow, I would speed up to be able to make the light. But that was not the theme of this day, right? The theme of this day was slowing down and understanding that everything is divine and like everything is meant to be. And if the light turned yellow, that means I'm meant to sit at this light. So I saw the light turn yellow and my foot lifted to press on the gas. And then I actively said, no, I'm hitting the brake. If the light turned yellow, I am meant to be at this light. And right after I think that, I look to the right and there's a car sitting there. Their back driver's side door is aligned with me. And so I'm directly in eye line sight of a sticker that they have on their car. And the sticker says, have a little faith. And the word faith was written in purple, which is my mom's favorite color. So it wasn't like my crazy mom sign, but I was like, like that kind of feels like my mom's energy. Like that's cute. I'll take a picture of it, sort of thing, you know? Right after I took a picture of it, that car's light went green and the car drove away. And I noticed that the car had another sticker on the back of the windshield. And that sticker said, "You are my sunshine." So I immediately burst out sobbing. Again, I had not written about that night ever. And I wrote about it like 3 days ago and remembered that song. And like I asked for a sign from my mom, thought, oh, like I'm meant to be at this light. Oh, that's nice. That seems like my mom's energy. And then "You are my sunshine." I immediately burst out sobbing as my light turns green and I turn onto the highway ramp. And I was listening to NF's album that he put out last year called Hope. And one of the songs on it is called Mama. And it's about him dealing with the death of his own mother. And so I'm sobbing, I'm getting onto the highway ramp. And that's the next song that plays, talking about like, are you okay? Did you make it up to the gates? I start sobbing even harder. I'm like, she's here. Like I'm getting chills. I'm like, she's here. Like there's no way. There's no way. And I'm just sobbing the whole way on the highway home. And when I get back to Ocean Beach, I go and I turn onto the street right next to my street. And immediately as I'm like going around the roundabout and turn onto the street, I just see a blue Honda Odyssey minivan just like rush through the intersection. Like 1 second it was there and the next second it was gone. And that was the car that my mom drove growing up. So I was like, what is happening? What is happening? And so then I'm pulling up close to my apartment. And if you remember, it's a Saturday, it's by the beach, notoriously terrible for street parking. I was fully prepared to be like zooming around for like 10, 20 minutes, all this shit. And also I was still supposed to meet my friend Morgan. And it was like it was 1:30 at this point, and I hadn't heard from her. I knew she wasn't going to be one on the dot. She was actually in Ocean Beach having brunch with other friends and was going to meet me after. So I am planning to find parking and then call her. Well, I'm driving down my street and there's just one spot open, like sitting there perfectly waiting for me, which is also amazing because I was in a very, very emotional state at that moment. I don't think I was ready to like try to find parking for like 20 minutes after that car went through the intersection. I was like, what the heck? I immediately see a spot, thank God. And I pull into the spot and the first thing I do is pull out my phone to call Morgan because I'm like, what just happened? I need to process this. with her. And I pick up the phone, and again, like this whole story was about the concept of me slowing down because my brain had told me that I was late. And I said, no, brain, everything is divine. I am not late. I am right on time, right? And like I was, because if anything had gone different, like I wouldn't have been at that light, or I wouldn't have had the song come on when it did, or that car I wouldn't have seen the car drive through the intersection. So I call my friend, and the very first thing she says to me is, you have perfect timing. I lost my shit. Apparently, she literally finished with her friends, got to her car, sat in her car, pulled out her phone, and as she pulled it up, my name came up like I was calling her. So it literally was perfect timing. Like both of us, we had this plan to meet at a certain time, and neither of us met it. Both of us surrendered to the circumstances just presented to us in the moment. And by surrendering to that flow, somehow we were still perfectly aligned and both of us were on time. So I walk to my apartment, and she still needs to walk over. She took her sweet fucking time too. It took her like at least 10 minutes, and I was just in my apartment like sprinting in circles because I didn't know what to do with the energy of what just happened, and I just needed to tell her so bad what just happened. And she finally gets there, and I'm relaying to her everything that just happened, all the signs from my mom, and then her calling me and having perfect timing. And then I have a sudden realization that literally I collapse to the floor and I start rolling around. And my friend Morgan is like, Heather, what the fuck is wrong with you? What just happened? But what I realized is, like, if you remember, I had talked about, like, again, the theme of this whole day is timing. And it was based off of this book that I had been obsessed with called Momo. Well, my friend's name is Morgan, and her childhood nickname is Momo, and it's also her name on Instagram. So I just started screaming to her. I was like, you're the name of the book. You're the name of the book. And it just, so many things aligned that, like, after that day, all of the other stories that I've told you, like, they were cool and they were magical, but like, maybe it could still be chance. But after that day, I was like, this is not chance anymore, because it wasn't even just about the physical synchronicities. It was what's happening in my brain. I thought of the book and I said, okay, I need to slow down. And I said, okay, I'm meant to be at that light. And that's where it was. Like, this was also the day that more deeply reconnected me to my intuition as well. That day was just so profound in so many ways. And that's what allowed me to start now believing in angels so fast, is because I do have such a deep connection to a loved one on the other side. And that sign was so profound for me that, like, from that day forward, my faith was unshakable. And the other reason that day is so important is because it really affirmed to me the principles of divine timing and slowing down. And I started enacting those principles in my everyday life because I knew that that was the way to get more communication from my angels. And the more I started doing that, the more communication came, until, like, everything's fucking spiraled to my completely new life that I'm living now. And I can't wait to make more videos to talk about more different areas of my journey in that regard. But yeah, like, that is the way that I started believing in angels. And it's interesting too, because I think that some people kind of start out with these spiritual beliefs, and then their signs, it's almost the, oh my God, what is that hypothesis? Oh, it's like confirmation bias, right? You know, if you grow up having a spiritual person who believes in angels and signs, then they're going to see angels and signs, and other people are going to point at them and be like, okay, well, like, but you believe in it. So then, like, you know, that's not really, but that was not the case for me. I think like a lot of people start out spiritual and then they like look for signs. And no, I was not that at all. I was such a skeptic, did not want to believe it. And my mom and Spirit, they were all like, we are going to slap Heather in the fucking face with all of these signs to the point where there is so much irrefutable evidence that there is no way that she can deny it, because we have a fucking plan for her that she needs to put into action. And lo and behold, yeah, they did. And now I'm carrying out the plan, talking to all of you, and hopefully making more videos in the future about like how I continue to talk to my angels to help you guys do the same, because I love talking about it and like following the signs and synchronicities. It always reminds me of the magic that's in the world, and it's so beautiful, and I know how transformative it's been for me, so I'd love to like help like educate other people to do it. But yeah, this is a long freaking video about how I started believing in my angels. I just have so many synchronicities that if I'm ever talking about a video where the subject synchronicities, it's gonna be long. With all that said, this is my very first video, so comment down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think the craziest story that I told in this whole video was, and also leave a comment what you want to see me talk about next, because I'm so excited to start putting more of these out. And I hope that you have a lovely day.